to welcome you to today's event, Cybersecurity and Safer Internet within Modern Societies. And this event is part of the All Digital Weeks campaign. So I would like to say a few words about our annual awareness raising campaign. The All Digital Weeks campaign is really one of the major pan-European awareness raising campaigns on digital skills for inclusion and empowerment. And it's organized by All Digital. It's networked, the members, partner organizations, and it has been running since 2010. And since then, we have helped 1.4 million people to get online on the first time or enhance their digital skills to fully exploit the potentials of digital transformation. And every year, the awareness raising campaign brings over about 100,000 participants from 20 plus European countries in exciting online and offline events, which are taking place in digital competence centers, libraries, community centers, schools, and other venues across Europe. The motto of the 22 campaign is enhance your digital skills, and it's a call to action for all Europeans to take an active part to shape for a better future. And anyone can join the campaign by organizing an event or a training program on digital competencies and put your event on the alldigitalweeks.eu website. We are very pleased to say that this year we have supporters of the campaign, which are the European Commission, Microsoft, Huawei, and Certiport. But in addition to that, we have also strategic partners, European and international organizations, our strategic partners to help promote and disseminate the events of the campaign. During the 5 weeks of the campaign, we are focusing on specific topics under which trainings and events are organized at international and local levels across Europe. And now we are entering the 4th week of the campaign, starting today, and this is the launch event of the 4th week. And the main topic of this week, achieving cybersecurity and safer internet. And we have 1 more week left, starting next Monday, when we will be exploring how to improve STEM and STEAM skills for society and how to encourage girls and women's participation in STEM studies and careers. Yes, and I would like to thank very much the speakers of today who have joined us. First, it will be Una O'Sullivan from Microsoft, Corporate Affairs Manager at Microsoft. Then I will ask my colleague, Claudia Matera, to contribute. She is the Chief Development Officer of All Digital. Then we have Sylvain, co-founder, Startin'blox. And lastly, we have Federico Bomba with us, Artistic Director and Sineglossa. Well, the aim of the campaign is raising awareness among citizens and stakeholders, and it's a crucial role. And as said, this week we are focusing on a very critical topic, cybersecurity, safer internet environment that interests citizens, companies, governments, policymakers, impacting their living and working. The topic is very wide, and it covers technical aspects like data sharing, protection, digital identity, malware, technologies that we often hear about, but also fake profiles and fake news and cyber crimes that could affect people financially, but also more impactfully personally, especially the young people. And in fact, we are unfortunately witnessing online grooming, blackmailing, cyberbullying, sex trafficking, and exploitation that expose vulnerable young people to offenders. And then first of all, I would like to invite Una O'Sullivan, Corporate Affairs Manager at Microsoft, to share with us her thoughts. And Una, my question is that from your experience and from your perspective, thanks to the experience within the digital safety learning for youth activities, What is the current situation regarding online behaviors? And I stop sharing my screen, and the floor is yours, Sylvain.
Okay. Here we go. First of all, I'll, can you see my screen okay?
It's coming, and we can see in an editor mode.
There we go. Let me know when it's up.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, excellent. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that I'm delighted to be here today because Microsoft and All Digital have a relationship stretching back many years, and it's wonderful to see some old names and some new faces and new names as well. And as a company, we continue to be big fans of the work of All Digital, which is profoundly important in Europe today. But first, so turning to digital safety, I'll share a little bit, as you say, Peter, a little bit about what we're seeing and talk about some of the things we're doing with young people as well. But just in kicking off, I mean, it really is a worrying landscape when you look at the increasing complexity of what young people in particular have to deal with today online. You just went through the list of issues earlier, but it's really something that's where I think all actors need to work together on in order to address. And the European Commission is leading the way on this with the strategy around Europe's digital decade. And as we think about Europe's digital ambitions, of course, this is only possible if it extends to ensuring increased security and safety and empowerment for all users, regardless of age. And once again, it's a combat that many actors need to tackle together, and that it goes beyond just any one company. But you know, as a company, Microsoft has been working on online safety, digital safety for well over 2 decades. And it's been a company priority during that time. And we see it essentially as ensuring that we maximize the positive online experiences while minimizing experiences that relate to illegal, inappropriate, or illegitimate content, conduct, and commerce. It's what we call the 4 Cs. And of course, protecting children lies at the core of that. And so as you look from content all the way across the spectrum, whether it's hate speech or more seriously going beyond cyberbullying to child grooming and IP theft and unwanted solicitations for commercial activities that often does not turn out to be scams or hoaxes. We're active in all of these areas and with many of our partners as well. But I would say if you were to summarize our overall approach, obviously it starts with our technology and ensuring that the products that we bring to market, that safety considerations have been integrated right from the start of the engineering process. And that we continue to approach this in a way that's digital safety by design, that we're thinking about that right at the start of the products. Around that, we have policies, standards, and procedures. You know, our terms of use. People who use our services, they adhere to using using our services in line with our guidelines, which would be to not cause harm to children and not exercise any illegal activity or share illegal content online. And so that continues to be par for the course as well. And beyond that, it really is about collaboration, partnerships, because, you know, whether it's working with governments or civil society organizations like All Digital and others on this call, it's really critical, as I mentioned. You know, the issues are too great to be trying to tackle this alone, and it really needs to be done in a consultative way. And finally, you know, looking at education and awareness raising, which is something that we do on a day-to-day basis through our programmatic work. We also invest in research. to try and inform our strategy and shape, how we take our programs forward by seeing what's out there. And so part of this research is an annual study that we undertake that we call the Digital Civility Index, which is essentially sending feelers out into the markets about what's happening, just taking a pulse on what people are facing and the issues around the world. And we released this year's survey to mark Safer Internet Day, so it's still quite new. It's 2 months ago. And when we think about the structure of it, it's structured around 21 different online risks as we see them that are linked to behavioral, intrusive, sexual, reputational risks that people experience online. And with some new questions this year as well, for example, impacting on social media usage. So the study takes place in 22 countries each spring. It's 11,000 participants. And you can see that we focus on adults, of course, but also the experience of teens. This is just a broad snapshot of what the results were like around the world. That it's color coded, and I would just point out that the lower the score, it means the lower the perception or the lower the experience of exposure to online risks. So the lower the score is better, and that's why you have Netherlands leading the way at 52, which was ranked first, and all the way down to other countries that appear in red. But it's just to give you a sense of the expanse, the scope of the survey. When we look at the countries that fared best, Europe actually did pretty well. We had 5 European countries in the top 10 list, and you get a sense here the types of issues that people experienced, whether it was just unwanted contact, being treated meanly, hoaxes, scams, unwanted sexting. It crosses, a broad range of the issues that you can see there. And then diving more deeply into Europe. So even though Netherlands, Germany, and UK feature at the top, it doesn't mean that everything is A-okay in those countries, because in the ideal scenario, they would be at a 0 score and not in the 50s. So, it's based on a random sampling of individuals in each country at a specific point in time based on their experiences of experiences to or exposure to risks on the internet. So it's not, it doesn't reflect high profile cases, obviously, that do happen as well in those countries that are listed in the top end. But overall, Europe did pretty well, as you can see, relatively compared to the other regions around the world. So what did we find? What was interesting was that the study improved over time based on people's perceptions, and this year in particular, it was led by the response of teen boys. Sorry, I will go back. You'll see over the years 2019 all the way through to 2021, that the risk to exposure, the sense was that it would come down. I'm not sure if can you see my screen there, because I'm trying to get rid of the thing that's blocking. Maybe it's just visible to me.
Well, we can see it well, I think.
Okay, perfect. Okay, but you can see that essentially it was the 90% of the improvement came from teen boys, which was an interesting stat. Unfortunately, this is not the case for women and girls who experience more online risks. And I'm not going to take you through all the statistics, but suffice to say that when you look at the difference between male respondents and female respondents, you can see that gaping chasm that develops on perceptions or exposure to risks online for women and girls in particular, which is very worrying. And it's data that we're digging into and have shared more broadly as well for other researchers to dig into. And this wasn't just women teens, but also women adults as well. So it's one that that's definitely that we're going to be paying more attention to going forward. And this This spills over into the consequences. You can see that it's led to, you can see the differences again between male and female respondents, less trust of people online, reluctance to use social media, less trustful, lower self-esteem. These problems, you know, they're far-reaching, and they go from, you know, starting with something as simple as microaggression and all the way through to unwanted sexual attention, that it is something that creates a lot of anxiety and concern. So I think that gender difference in the responses was something that that was very striking this year. And then when we switched to the pandemic, interestingly, when we ran this research in the spring of 2020, it was all brand new. Everyone had just moved online. And there was actually a spike in that everyone was very positive and civil to each other. Well, roll on 12 months, this was no longer the case. And we think that we would put it down to perhaps some COVID fatigue, that people were less tolerant. And you can see that how this changed in just in 1 year. And again, definitely a downturn there, but you know, certainly due to less tolerance and COVID fatigue. And if you look at all the countries surveyed, with the exception of a couple of countries in South America and India, that all countries respondents stated that civility was worse. Unsurprisingly, most respondents agreed that education was critical in ensuring that the internet becomes a safer environment. And I think this bar chart is interesting in the sense that, you know, whether it was teens, whether it was adults, male or female, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, all the way up to the baby boomers, everybody felt the same thing, that education is undeniably one of the most important things that we all need to tackle together. And finally, a question that we put out there was related to the responsibility of companies to moderate harmful speech online on social media. That was pretty much the majority of respondents as well. So whether it's clearly is a lot has to be done on the education side, and I think all actors are doing a lot in that area already. But I did just want to share one example of something that we're working on in Europe called the Microsoft Council for Digital Good Europe. It's basically a replication of a program that we've been running in the US for a number of years, which we extended to Europe, and it comprises 15 young Europeans from 10 European countries who joined us. They embarked with us on a digital safety learning journey for 18 months, and I would certainly say the learning works both ways. In addition to the young people learning, we're learning such a huge lot from them, and that's helping shape some of our approaches as well to our policies and programs. And this is just an example of the different organizations that we've been learning from through the Council for Digital Good, and that the young people have been contributing to and participating and sharing the voice of youth, as well as all these organizations are working to improve the online experience, ensuring that it's a safer experience. And one example would be this a workshop, a privacy workshop we ran 2 weeks ago as part of our youth pledge for a better internet, where we involved the Council for Digital Good to give us their ideas about how you make the topic of privacy, or when you talk about privacy policies or terms and conditions of use, how do you make it more compelling for young people? So, you know, I don't think the tech sector has not traditionally been the best in that area. So we're taking their ideas and thoughts and trying to turn them into something a little bit more engaging, accessible and compelling for young people around the world. And another example of a project we're working on is with Enfance in France, the national helpline in France, that launched an app recently, and so our Council for Digital Good are currently trying it out, and you know, coming back with suggestions and thoughts about how it could be improved for broader scaling. And in fact, they've engaged with many of these organizations. But I think from this snapshot, you just get a sense of how it really does take all actors, and technology is evolving so quickly that if we don't join forces and lead on this together. Unfortunately, the bad actors will, so it's critical that we're all working together. So in the interest of time, I'll stop there and hand it back to you, Peter, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Una. It was very interesting, and thank you for presenting Microsoft's approach to achieving cybersecurity and safer internet, the Digital Civility Index. It was really interesting data, and also telling us about the Council for Digital Good Europe. I really want to thank Microsoft for supporting particularly the fourth week of the All Digital Weeks campaign, achieving cybersecurity and safer internet. And again, on behalf of our community and network, we would like to thank for your continued partnership and support, which you have given to Telecenter Europe in the past and All Digital today. I forgot to tell all of you, the participants, to feel free to put your questions in the chat. And at the end, after the 4 speakers, we will have some time for Q&A. So please feel free to post your questions there. And let's now move on. And I would like to invite my colleague, Claudia Matera, who is the Chief Development Officer of All Digital, to share some information about Rayuela project. Rayuela is a Horizon 2022 project, All Digital is partner in, and we are developing an effective approach to fight against cyber crimes in a fun way. And please, Claudia, share more about the Rayuela, including some insights from the research carried out in the project on the behavioral profiles discovered for both victims and offenders of cyber crimes. Thank you, and Claudia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. You should be able to see my screen in presenting mode now.
We do.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, Rayuela project, as also Peter was mentioning, is an Horizon 2020 project. It has overall a length of 3 years, and we are at half of this journey. And we have within the partnership 17 partners, and of course All Digital is one of them, and our coordinator is the University Camillas, that is based in Madrid in Spain. And the other partners, they are the law enforcement organizations, so the postal police and other universities, where we look for and we gain from the expertise regarding specific topics: sociology, anthropology, criminology. We also have within the partnership other educational partners and providers from formal and non-formal education, and also expertise coming from legal kind of advisors and topics that are related to the aims of the project. I'm going to say in a second. So the expertise on psychology, criminology, and anthropology have been the main point of focus for the research that had been carried out. And the aim of that phase was to identify which are the main drivers behind cybercrimes, especially those that affect younger generations. At the same time, the research had been carried out on which are the IT kind of threat landscape. So looking at and analyzing the Internet of Things kind of devices, for instance, a smartwatch or a smart toy that are popular, quite popular within younger audiences, which are the vulnerabilities of these devices. And so what is the type of online privacy in place? The combination of these informations are at the basis of the next step, really. That is actually the phase where we are now. So developing a video game, and this is based on narrative, on stories, kind of scenarios where young people, and of course it's targeted to young people, where to give a kind of a safe environment where to reflect, understand, recognize, and see actually how specific types of cybercrimes can affect them. And the next phase, really, which is the one that we're going to start next in the next weeks, are going to be the pilot studies. So basically, from summertime primarily, we have engaged groups of young people, and we're going to test the serious game and gain a feedback from them. So when referring to cyber crimes, Una also was mentioning cyber crimes, and also based on the knowledge that we have, that we might have heard from the news or our online presence, we might have the sense that there are many types of cyber crimes. Within Rayuela, we have been focused on few ones and specific ones, so those that are affecting younger generations. And we have studied them to understand what is the, let's say, typical, or could we identify a profile, a type of behavior of victims, and trying to understand how it is possible to become a victim, what there might be the reasons why behind, and on the other side, what kind of offenders are those that are actually acting online, looking in a sense for interactions with young people. So just to give some insights from the research. So one of the cybercrime is the online grooming. Online grooming is basically when an adult interacts with the young people through new technologies, and the aim of that interaction is to persuade that young to share sexual kind of content, and in general sexual kind of activities potentially. Based on numbers, we've seen that unfortunately it is a kind of a crime that is increasing, and we have, in that sense, when we talk about the reports, we have also to mention that not everyone reports the this kind of situations. And also during COVID-19 lockdowns, with everyone all the time, or most of the time at least, online, unfortunately, the request and the sharing also of child sexual kind of content increased. As an overview within Europe, from researches, we have seen that there is a number, let's say, that we would love to see as a zero. I agree with that, as Una was saying, of people that admitted that watched sexual kind photography online with, of course, minors. And the opposite, that minors have received sexual messages and approaches when online. And this is also in the case of having than an online relationship with someone that a young person doesn't know at all. And if we see at the gender balance that is related to online grooming and cybercrimes in general, we see that females are those most affected, although if we compare them in the last years, there is now a kind of a close to a balance, although from interviews and interactions with the offenders, the female choice, let's say, is in any case the preferred one. When looking at the victims, there are studies related to what types of victims we might cluster, we might identify. And in this case, there have been identified 3 different types of victims. The resilient one, that is a young person able to recognize a danger, a potential danger, and react, so block and have enough self-confidence to react to a sexual kind of behavior or proposal, and as an important point, to inform others, to ask for help about what's happening. The second type of victim identified are called the vulnerable victims. In this case, we talk about minors that have some affective deficiencies. Those could be a need for attention, a feeling of loneliness, or generally speaking, a low self-esteem. The numbers show that this is more frequent within young girls, and those ones are the ones that more likely maintain an online relationship despite it might become, and it becomes, abusive and hard also them. The third one is the risky, so-called risky type of victims. This has an aspect that from psychology has also more deeply kind of explained. It is a type of minor that is more inclined towards disinhibition and a bit less of the perception of safety. In this group, there is also the stimuli and the curiosity in understanding the general, let's say, topic of sexuality, and this would bring them in taking the initiative to contact, and in that case, contact offenders first, and also ask to offenders for photos and to meet. And this is why this group is risky. Looking at the opposites, and then I close, about the offenders, there are tentative classifications of them. On those that are, the aim is to have a contact and in that sense have a sexual encounter, and those that are looking for fantasy, and so to have an online kind of relationship as a final aim. Another type of an approach is based on the way that the offenders operate. So those that are more have a kind of an affection focused kind of approach, so to gain trust of victims, using care and showing affection, and the other type that is focused on sex, and in that sense have the sexual contact as soon as possible. So this is the overview, let's say, in few words, in few minutes, about the stage where we are with the Rayuela project. And these were few of the main outcomes that we have collected, partners have collected about the research. And these all is included within the game, where young people are going to deal with narrative scenarios, and in that sense realistic ones, based on a kind of a typical behavior and how they might be reached, and then how to react, in a sense, how to ask for help. So these are the contacts if you like to know more about Rayuela, and in case also you would like to run and test also the game within your organization or network. And I give the floor back to you, Peter.
Thank you, Claudia. And for all those who are interested in and to know more about the Rayuela project, we put the website and social media links also in the chat. So please feel free to follow those links and learn more about the project. Now, let's move on to sharing and owning data. As we all know, sharing data is often required today in our digitally transformed society. When we go on and book a flight, when we subscribe for a streaming service, when we get the pizza delivered to our homes, then we create a profile and a digital identity. But are we really aware of how the data is going to be used and managed by the service providers? We might be aware of GDPR policy and laws, but do we have the perception of owning our data? And with this, I would like to invite Sylvain, co-founder of Startin'blox, asking him how can users own their data in an interoperability perspective of the data, and which are the benefits to users and companies when a good data management system is in place. Sylvain, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. So yeah, I'm Sylvain, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Startin'blox. And Startin'blox is a French startup focused on the matter of interoperability of data on the web. And today I'm going to talk to you about how the question of interoperability is key to actually controlling and protecting user data on the web. So basically today, we are in a situation where citizens and users have no control whatsoever on over their data. The reason behind that is that the platforms that we use to interact with other users have a clear strategy of locking users in and are not interoperable with the other tools, which means that there is no possibility for a user to use another service to interact with someone on the web. Whenever you want to interact with someone, you have to use the service that's given by the platform. Let's imagine for a second that lawmakers had not enforced interoperability on the electricity market. We would end up with a few big players in the electricity, and as a consumer, I would have to take a contract with with several ones of these providers. And whenever I wanted to buy a electric device, a coffee machine or a fridge or whatever from a house, I would have to go to the store of those electricity providers, because they would be the only ones to provide a coffee machine compatible with their system. So they would tell you that there is no problem of competition between them, and that their their system is very secure because they're working on it. But I think we can all agree that it would be hell. And that's actually exactly what we do when it comes to the digital market and the data on the web today. And this situation has a lot of drawbacks, both for citizens and for businesses. So as a user, I end up having data distributed among a lot of different apps. I basically have lots of data all around the web. I have no idea where it is. I have no idea who accesses it, what they do with it, and where it leaks. I have a rising cost of using these apps because they're basically monopolies. And even though the cost can be only in terms of data use, like what they do with my data more than money that I pay, but the cost raises because they're monopolies. And I feel powerless when it comes to what is done with my data, because I can either just accept whatever they do, or I have to stop using my internet services and interact with my family and friends and colleagues and business partners and so on. And as a business, the drawbacks are very big as well, because there is a huge barrier for new participants on the market that prevents me from coming up with an innovation and providing a new service or a new approach to users on service online. And the worst thing is that not only it's hard for a new service to emerge, but the users don't want to give away their data to yet another platform, and so the new service face a mistrust of the users even before they started the service. So what would it look like to have a web with interoperability? Basically, the idea would be that the data would be on the web. So as much as we have an electric system right now, a network that covers the whole union, where we can plug any system, that would do the same thing with data. It would basically have a web of data with data accessible from all around whatever the application you choose to use. And then you would have the ability as a user to have one single point of control over your data, with a window giving you the list of what data you have, where it is stored, who it is shared with, what consent you gave to treatment, and then to maybe fix that if you want to move your data or stop some permissions that you gave to someone. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you have a small screenshot of an app that actually does that, where people can see the data they have in different applications they use. But more than that, this web of data would create a new level playing field where anyone could create a new service and provide some features, some applications that you as the user could use to interact with the data you already have, or interact with the other people on the web, even though they didn't decide to use the same application. Basically, it would be way easier for new applications to provide new services and so on. And another thing would be that the matter of jurisdiction would be way simpler. We have talked a lot about how Donald Trump wanted to kick TikTok outside of the United States because he didn't feel it was normal that a Chinese company could access data of American users. But which probably makes sense from an American point of view. But we as Europeans should probably ask how we can do the same thing, because basically today all of our data is going to the United States. to the big monopolies that use our data. And if the web was interoperable in terms of data, I could use an app that I select, that I choose as a user, that has been made by an American company, but keep the data where I want it to be, meaning inside the European Union. So the question is now how we can work on that. What can we do about it? So today there are quite a few companies that are actually already working on these new architectures and this ability for applications to share the data. They're based on open standards, because it's those open standards that create this interoperability. The same way that the electrical plug is actually the key to making all the coffee machines compatible with all the electricity providers. And so there is some work done on these standards, and I think that the public actors should actively support the creation and the development of those standards, and they should, I think, also support the research and development that's made by many companies on how to use those standards and how this interoperability can change the experience of users and all the matters of security and the performance and all of that in this new web. And then in terms of regulation, we have seen recently that there's been some progress made on the DMA, the Digital Markets Act, between the Parliament, the Council, and the Commission, which is about to create something with like some interoperability between messaging services on the web, which is a very good step forward. But we think that there's no reason why this should be limited to messaging. I think the interoperability should be applied to job listings, to user profiles, to even vacation rental listings or taxi courses listings, or all of that. I think that the interoperability should be the rule, and non-interoperability should be the exception. And then I think that the public procurement contract should exclude actors that have a strategy to lock users in, to make sure that users can decide what services they use. And well, I think it's the only way to ensure free competition on the data and digital markets. Okay, that's it. I hope I was clear, but I'm happy to discuss it and answer questions if you have. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Sylvain. And I encourage again participants to post their questions in the chat. We might have some time, a few minutes at the end of the session, to ask from the speakers. And now let's move on to our final speaker. Well, let's say that data can also describe what is the preferred square or view, what needs in emerging from citizens. In other words, more qualitative type of information that would describe mood, feelings, and ideas. I mean, moving into a field that would require a narrative and visualization, as we are a visual type of society. Also, emerging technologies might be scary to most people, although we are already immersed in them, as for instance, for artificial intelligence. And we started the discussion with risk and threats, and now we'd like to explore positive opportunities in sharing data. And for this reason, we have invited Federico Bomba, artistic director at Sineglossa, to answering a question which is, has the community as any resistance towards emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, and how sharing data through AI could have an impact on enhancing modern societies. Federico, thank you very much for joining, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for this invitation, and thank you for all of you for being here today. Yes, I'm Federico Bomba, and I lead Sineglossa, which is a cultural organization which is based in Italy. It's also a research center, and we work on different research projects with many European networks. We basically, as was Peter saying, use art as a tool for enabling communities in interpreting and finding common answers to complex social issues that we're all facing. So especially today, I would like to talk about two projects we are working on about data and artificial intelligence. We saw that people have two different approaches on artificial intelligence. Most of the time, many times they don't care, even if it's a very important thing that it's in their daily life, but many other times are also scared about it when they know about a bit about it. And both these attitudes are not great attitudes towards artificial intelligence, because as you know, it enters in every aspect of our life, and it's very important that we work on creating a critical understanding and on how AI works, and on building trust for the people who don't trust artificial intelligence, because of course it can be, and it is, a very powerful tool for making lives better. So for this reason, for doing so, we have creating some methodologies and publications shared with our ecosystems of professionals, which is not just composed of artists, which are a very fundamental part of the methodology, but also composed of computer scientists, data scientists, and lawyers, who help us in creating accessibility and transparency to all the requirements connected to privacy, for instance, or biases. So in this ecosystem, we think that it's important that tech, imagination, and legal aspects always go together when it's connected to people security, and we create transdisciplinary actions for trying to address this issue. Victoria, please, could you launch a very short video?
There you go. One moment, let's try again. Let me know if you can hear it. Thank you.
Okay, yes, we didn't have much time for seeing many things, but this is a teaser of one of the projects we implemented in Bolzano, and this is one of the projects I would like to talk about, and it's called IACOS. IACOS is the acronym of Intelligenza Artificiale di Quartiere Open Source, which means Open Source Neighborhood Artificial Intelligence. And this project uses art and design to turn data into knowledge that could help to understand and solve some problems in a specific local context. The place where IACOS was born and where its first experimentation took place is Tarquinia, which is a neighbor in the periphery of Rome, known as the most multicultural district in the city, and it was financed by the Ministry of Culture. In this first manifestation, IACOS took the form of an artificial kid. While you saw here, it was a kind of asteroid in Bolzano, because every time IACOS changes its shapes depending on the people we work with. And it was designed for building empathetic relationships with people from the local community and to involve them in different participatory actions. This young artificial intelligence has lived both online and offline, so that we could reach even people that are not usually connected on the internet, old people especially, and it lived also on social networks and to interactive installations around the city that allowed also people to physically interact with local people. So the first issue that IACOST addressed in Rome was the quality of Torpignatara's relational ecosystem, analyzing how different cultures meet, interact, and live together. We connected data, gave them back to the community, and explained them what we were doing through workshops, events, art installations, and visualization. And we structured the project so in different levels. The implementation of this open source AI dedicated to the neighborhood, but that we implemented in other two cities, as I was saying, in Ancona and Bolzano. The intervention that was aimed at digital inclusion, in which art and design are means to improve technology accessibility and usability. And the acquisition of skills about even basic skills sometimes about AI and data and the problematic implication like algorithmic biases or privacy. And the AI experimentation some AI experimentation to realize a new active forms of participation and knowledge representation of the communities. In the two other developments we had, in Ancona, we created a group of people working on the future of the city. And now this group became a civic movement that is organizing some actions for the next local elections. So we gave IACOST to these people, and they are moving to the adoption of this tool. And in Bolzano, we could design the new version of IACOST with 15 young social innovators. And they have chosen to be helped by IACOST in breaking the bubbles between the German and Italian speakers that in Bolzano are big bubbles. And they come up with some interactive installations, and 3 of them are now writing their final dissertation discussing all the topics that came up with this project. The other project that I want to shortly address to you is called AI for Future, and we are doing that with 4 other European partners in Barcelona, Milan, Cagliari, and Rotterdam, that was co-funded by Creative Europe. And it's another project that improves the understanding and dissemination of artificial intelligence technology, but this time for social activism on the topic of mobility, which was the topic that we have chosen for the 4 cities. This project started with a specific question, which was, can artificial intelligence be a creative tool for activism on biggest social challenges? And we started this journey 2 years ago. It will end in September 2022. And we involved young activists coming from these 4 cities and dealing with what they thought about the topic of mobility nowadays, which is not just the sustainable mobility of means of transportation, but also crossing national borders or the digital domains of virtual and real life. So they chose then the artists they wanted to work with, among some artists that answered the call. And now they're working on some urban labs, which will bring to the creation of an installation that they will use and adopt for advocacy on their topics on mobility. And now we are starting a new project and developing new tools and pilot actions for the debugging conspiracy theories through art. We think that art can be a very interesting method to debug conspiracy theories. This whole framework comes from a NEB perspective, a European Bauhaus perspective. We are official partner of the European Bauhaus, and we believe that what Ursula von der Leyen said about the fact that we have to cross-fertilize different disciplines, and our green transition cannot just be technological, but it also has to be beautiful, sustainable, and inclusive, are the pillars of Europe. And this is why we are working on this project with so many different stakeholders. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Federico, for talking about your projects and tools. And now we are getting to the end of the session, and I didn't see any questions in the chat. So if you want to have a question, please just feel free to jump in or raise your hand. We might have a few more minutes to answer them. So let's see if anyone wants to interact. If not, I would then just like to thank again our speakers, presenters who joined us today and presented their perspectives from different points of views. So thank you very much, Una, Sylvain, Federico, and Claudia for your contributions. And once again, I would like to thank Microsoft for supporting All Digital Week's campaign, and in particular the 4th week of the campaign when we discuss about cybersecurity and safer internet. So thank you once again, and I think it's my last request would be passing the floor to Victoria, who will take care of the group photo.
Thank you, Peter. So we would like to kindly ask you to take a group picture. So if you want to be in the picture, please turn on your camera. We'll turn it into gallery mode and we will take a screenshot. Thank you very much. All right, we'll allow a few more seconds if anybody else wants to join the picture. All right, we have a few more people turning on the cameras. All right, let's prepare. All right, so we're ready to take the picture. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.